Fellow Falcoholics, what is up? Welcome to episode 73 of the Falcoholic Live. I am, of course, your host, Kevin Knight, at Falcoholic Kevin on Twitter, joined by my co-host this evening, Mr. Eric Robinson, at _Eric_Robinson on Twitter. We're going to be talking some minicamp stuff, some OTA stuff, unfortunately some injury updates, and just some other pressing questions. I'm sure you guys have some, so we'll try to get to as many of those as we can tonight. But before we do any of that, Eric, how are you doing this evening?
I'm doing good, man. It feels like we haven't been on for a little while, man. So it feels good to get back on and talk some Falcons football and discuss some important matters that has registered recently.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I had to take last week off. I know you guys were chomping at the bit for more shows, so we do appreciate the zeal. But we are here this week to get you guys caught up on everything that's happened. So let's see. There hasn't been a ton of news coming out of OTAs other than the little bit today, which is unfortunate. So we'll just start with that first, which would be the season-ending Achilles injury to defensive end edge Steven Means. Tore his Achilles today. He will miss the entire season, so that's a pretty significant hit to the depth immediately. So, Eric, what are your thoughts on the loss of Means here pretty early on?
Much was expected from Means this upcoming season. I think he was going to have an increased role. I'm not talking maybe he's going to be a starter or anything like that, or these starter-type minutes, but he was going to have a much elevated role than what he had last year, and he started the last 3 or 4 games last year, I believe, and played pretty well to close out the season last year, enough for the team to want to bring him back on board for the 2019 campaign. This while his injury is not, the end all be all, it's not going to be, it's not going to truly damage the team or the defense. This injury reflects a lot, in my opinion, on what the team didn't do during the offseason when it came to edge. Again, if you are a frequent listener, follow me on Twitter, you know that even before the season ended, I've been banging and pounding the table on improving at defensive end more than any position on this team. I felt like that was the position that they needed to improve on in order for them to take that next step as a unit. Granted, they needed to get healthy, but they cannot go in 2019 with just a Band-Aid. And it's starting to seem like they're going into the season next year. So, I mean...
Yeah, that's basically where we're at right now. And I was definitely with you. We were both very much team Brian Burns. I think I had him as my number 2 overall guy. I think you had him maybe there or 3. So we were super high on Brian Burns. I think we both love the fit here as a better Vic Beasley. Cough cough. But Quinn seems pretty clear that he wants Vic Beasley. So hopefully,
which I understand. But again, what if Vic doesn't show up? And I think that there's a much greater likelihood that he doesn't have a great 2019 season than what Dan Quinn anticipates and what he wants. And again, this is going to test the depth a little bit. They went after an edge guy in Kaminsky who's somewhat like a hybrid, but he's not a true edge rusher. And they didn't address that position at all in the draft. And this is, again, I hate to go back to that, but I'm going back to it. They double dipped that corner when, in my opinion, they didn't necessarily need it to. They needed to kind of address the defensive line, and this is why. So we'll see what the team does. Honestly, I didn't really say this on Twitter, but honestly, knowing this organization, knowing this coaching staff, knowing this front office, I don't think they're going to do anything. I think it's going to be more of a situation where they're going to say, okay, we're still going to depend on Tack and Vic. That's why we brought in a veteran presence in Claiborne. We're still going to slide Crawford out to the edge a little bit. They're still going to look at Chris Odom and what he brings to the table. If anything that they do, I think the biggest move they may end up doing at edge is probably bringing back Derek Shelby.
Yeah.
I don't think they're going to do any outside of that. I don't think they're really going to do anything to address this.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like, this is the type of thing that the Falcons would do where they're not going to mess with bringing in somebody like as a reactionary thing. They're gonna see who they, what the guys they have look like. They're going to, try competition and see if maybe one of these undrafted guys shakes loose. I mean, if we're panicking about losing the guy that was going to be like the fourth edge in the rotation,
Right.
that would be a really bad sign. So I don't think anyone should panic about that. I think Stephen Means would have been a very good fourth edge, all things considered, because I think he's like basically Brooks Reed or a little bit better than that, and having that as your fourth guy is fine. So now it's basically that there's a question mark at that fourth edge spot. So, I think this really helps Chris Odom's chances, because before with Kaminsky here, I just didn't think that Odom really had a shot. But now it's definitely in the cards, I think, for Odom to get a legit chance here. We liked what we saw from him in the preseason, 2 years ago?
Mm-hmm.
So
this is again, this is why you felt like they should have done, if not drafted a young edge, at least. I mean, I know bringing back Claiborne was big, but I think they should have done, and they could have done more outside of that.
They should have. Yeah.
And this is going to. I mean, again, making a swing at a guy like Justin Houston, it wouldn't have killed them. It wouldn't have hurt. Granted, at that point in time, they still had some things to iron out as far as money goes. But again, if they would have made a move like that, this really would have offset an injury like Stephen Means. You would have looked at it and said, okay, we lost a young guy that they were going to depend on, but there's still enough veteran presence to rely. I think they're relying way too much on Vic Beasley showing up this year, and there's not a reliable plan B if Vic Beasley doesn't show up.
Yeah, no. If Vic Beasley's bad this year, the pass rush is bad. Like that's just what it's going to be. So that's unfortunate, honestly. But I think that's basically where we're at right now with how they've constructed things.
Yep.
So we just got to hope that Vic Beasley's not bad. But I guess this is a good segue into obviously Gerald McCoy was cut by the Bucs mostly for financial reasons, but it seems like he and Bruce Arians seem to have beef, so I don't know what's going on there. But financially, they had to either cut him or cut several other veterans just to get under the cap. So, not surprising. A lot of people want us to bring in McCoy. I would like to bring in McCoy, but I don't think it's really realistic. But what are your thoughts on that?
I'm not going to hold my breath. I think in order to bring in somebody of his caliber, and even to address before Ndamukong Suh signed with the Bucs, even addressing those rumors as well, I felt like the team wasn't going to be able to do anything to sign either one of those guys unless they restructure some contracts. Now, granted, June 2nd is coming, and that's going to free up some money on the books for Ryan Schrader. But right now, if I were a betting man, I think Gerald McCoy would be on the team by the time June 2nd comes around.
Yeah, he's got a lot of suitors, and when a player that good gets out in the free agent market, like he's going to have a lot of people interested. So like the Colts are interested, Patriots are interested, a lot of teams are interested.
Browns are interested. Bengals came, their interest level shot up today. Again, in order, I know some fans and some writers were kind of hoping like, hey, let's wait until June 2nd when we get a little extra money. Again, in order for them to try to sign him before June 2nd, they're going to have to restructure at least one contract.
Yeah, or just get one of these big deals done that they're trying to do.
Yeah, or extend Grady or Julio. They don't have to do both, but one will help sufficiently.
Yeah. If McCoy's still a free agent after June 1st, I think the chances of him becoming a Falcon are a lot higher, partially because it means that for whatever reason he didn't sign somewhere else. You think about, obviously, the connection there with Dirk Cutter. He's been, McCoy's head coach for the past 2 to 3 years. If he really has a strong relationship with Cutter, and obviously there's the great revenge angle, right? And the practical matter, which is like he wouldn't have to move very far, or his family might not even have to move at all. So,
if he's still on the market by June 1st or June 2nd, it's going to tell me either two things. Either Actually, it may tell me three things. Either he's not as healthy as we think he is. He's seriously thinking about some.
What?
In certain situations, they'll sign with the first team that comes calling.
Yeah.
And I think, granted, we hear the Bengals' interest, we hear other teams' interest, but I'm not quite sure with him playing with Tampa for so long and only been to the playoffs how many times?
Right.
Maybe once or twice. This may be a situation where he's really hoping for like a legitimate contender. Like he's not going to take the first thing calling.
No.
Or option 3, he may be pondering retirement. I'm not saying it. I'm not saying he is.
Right.
I'm pretty sure rumors have not circulated in that manner. But you never know with a guy of his stature, been around the league for 9-10 years, he played X amount of games. He may be at least thinking about it in the back of his mind. Like, do I really want to go back? I will say this. I think by June 1st he'll be on the roster somewhere. It just depending on who. I can't fathom him waiting that long.
Yeah, I think it's unlikely, but if he's not signed by the 1st, it's possible that he is waiting for the Falcons to get enough money to sign him. I don't know why he would do that personally if he's got good offers, but
Right.
I wouldn't judge the man. I would say that's great, thank you. But
if he really wants to join the Falcons, he'll come and take a significant pay cut just to be on the team and play with a contender and play with a team that's going to see the Bucks twice a year. He wouldn't worry about if all he wants is just to be on the Falcons to get revenge. I don't think he would care about money. I think he'll just want to be a Falcon for $5 or $6 million. He'll do what Dontari Poe did.
Yeah,
took the pay cut, play a year, reap the benefits next year.
Yeah, no, that makes sense, and I think that's unlikely in the long run, but. Hey, I would be happy about it. That's cool. McCoy would be great on this defense next to Grady. That'd be nice.
Well, let me ask you this: his addition, would that not create a logjam at defensive tackle? I mean, I think there's a significant rotation of bodies already there now, and then you're going to add a multi Pro Bowler like McCoy in the mix. How would you feel? Would you feel who's going to be the odd man out? Let's just say they do bring McCoy. Who's going to be the odd man out?
Probably Sanad or something like that. Because I suspect. I mean, I don't think he's going to get cut or anything. I just think in terms of playing time, McCoy being signed would probably hurt Sanad's playing time the most. I would say.
Really?
Because I think Crawford's still going to get plenty of run in nickel as a rotation guy. What it probably means is that they're going to play Claiborne a lot more at edge if they were to make that signing. Like they'll play him on the outside primarily.
I think that'll be bad news for Hageman.
Oh well, yeah, no. If McCoy comes in, Hageman's not making this roster. Yeah,
I think that'd be terrible news for Hageman.
Yeah, no. Hageman's. I don't personally know that he's anywhere near the roster at this point. I don't know exactly what his situation is. We haven't really heard any reports, but he's been out of football for several years. Like it's kind of a long shot that he's going to be able to make the roster to begin with. So yeah, if they add Gerald McCoy, Hageman's not making the team. So
yeah. Davidson is fine. I think you're pretty much expecting Davidson to be on the roster this year because they need a true nose tackle run stuffer. So I think he's in the equation. But you bring in a guy like McCoy, I really do think Hageman's on the outside looking in. He's going to really have to impress in training camp in order to just get consideration. But we'll see.
We shall see. It is an interesting question. I mean, they definitely need an edge guy more. I think there's still a few names out there.
Absolutely.
They could go after. Like I think maybe Derek Morgan's still out there.
Derek Morgan, Shane Ray.
I think Shane Ray did get signed. I'm not exactly sure where.
Where?
I can't remember.
Well, I know they showed a lot of love for him pre-draft, so it would make sense if he's still on the market for them to kind of kick the tires a little bit. Bringing in an edge rusher right now. I mean, it's more than likely going to be a cheap veteran. It's not going to be a guy that's going to come in and probably get double-digit sacks. It's just going to be a guy. I mean, Derek Morgan, I'm fine with. I mean, he's been consistent. I don't think he's had a double-digit sack season, but I think you can almost, account for him to post 6 or 7 sacks a year.
Yeah,
just about a year, and I wouldn't mind that. I mean,
yeah, no, that'd be great. That'd be perfect.
I'll take that.
Yeah. So I mean, if they don't add anyone, I mean, this kind of makes you think that Kaminsky's going to have a much bigger role, or they really like Odom. So we'll see. I don't think, like, asking Kaminsky to play a run stopping role on the edge, I think he'll be okay, but I don't think he's like ready to play on the interior yet. Like, he hasn't really done that at all.
So I'll say this one last thing. If they don't address the edge position, okay, and they really put all their chips in and say, hey, we're going to go with Tack and Vic. That's going to be our duo. I will say this. That tactical move can really cost Dan Quinn and Thomas Dimitroff their job.
Oh, yeah.
It's that major. It's that much of a one minor slip up, such as Vic not, meeting expectations, where this team can really find themselves at 9-7, 8-8, outside looking in, and Dan Quinn unemployed. Like, this is it. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I don't want to quote unquote speak it into existence, but if it does go down that road, I'm going to look back and I'm going to point at this.
Yeah.
This is probably why it happened.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like, it would be because the pass rush wasn't good, and all it's going to take is Vic having a bad year, which I think is the odds-on favorite. Tack not breaking out again. This is really Tack's year to, like, do something more. So we'll hope that we can get that this year. This is the year where Tack needs to be like an impact starter and not just like a guy with a lot of potential that's like decent when he plays. Like, this is the year that he needs to be that impact starter.
Second in the league last year in pressure rate.
Yeah, he's shown us enough to think that, like, I think Tack having a breakout year is
more likely.
Is much more likely. I think I wouldn't have been upset if the team was going in banking on Tack having a better year or like a good year.
Mm-hmm.
Banking on Vic is what I'm uncomfortable with. Like, so,
yep.
You've got enough interior pressure with Grady and Crawford and Claiborne on the inside. Your interior pressure is actually pretty good, I think. So if Vic and Tack work out, then this pass rush and this defense will probably be pretty good. If Vic doesn't work out and just Tack works out, this defense will probably be like average, maybe above average. And if neither one works out, then this is going to be a bad defense. So, yeah. So, they do have Claiborne back. So, like, if Vic like just face plants, I think Claiborne gives you like serviceable production on the outside. So, it's not like the pass rush will be terrible, but it's not going to be great. I mean, really, like we have not, like, Quinn's thing is getting pressure with 4 guys. And that, like, makes the whole defense tick. And we have, like, seen that for, like, a flash of one season and the entire time he's been here. It just blows my mind how little – I mean, they dumped 2 first-round picks into the pass rush, so it's like –
And it really wasn't an entire 4-man rush that year. It was really Vic just eating off pressures from, guys around him.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't like they were, it wasn't like they had multiple guys on that defensive line that was just, getting sack after sack after sack. It was just a season where Vic was kind of sort of like, hey, he's in the right place at the right time to get a sack.
Yeah, and that's fine. If he can do that again, that's great. Like, if he can finish, but his like pressure to sack rate that year was just absurdly high. Like, it was never going to happen again. So it's just weird that he, like, fell off a cliff, essentially.
I don't feel that good about it, man.
Yeah, and
I'm worried.
Dan Quinn's like, I'm gonna work with this kid like one-on-one every day until he gets good. So, you know what, Dan Quinn, like, he's like staking his career, like, in his future as the Falcons head coach on this. So
it is riding on 44.
So I expect that Dan Quinn's going to be trying really hard to get Vic in shape. So maybe it will work out. I still think Quinn's a good coach. So now I don't know that he always makes the best decisions, but that doesn't mean he's a bad coach. I mean,
I would hire Dan Quinn to be my defensive coordinator.
Oh, hell yeah. Well, I guess we'll see, too, with that, right? Like, with the defense, like, how much of a difference does it make with him coordinating, like, with him running it?
Well, I mean, that along with the circumstance of the healthy guys coming back, like Keanu, Dion being 100%, Ricardo Allen being 100%, you know, that is all going to play a part in it as well. But again, I pointed out earlier, I anticipate the team to not make much of a move at all.
Yeah.
And if they do, it's barely going to be a move that gets the needle moving. I just want to see the team say, they were somewhat aggressive with the offensive line. I mean, they pounded that point home.
Yeah.
We want to improve the offensive line. Do the same thing for edge. Like, that's all I'm saying. That's
yeah. I think, let's say, like, Vic doesn't play super well. Tack plays pretty well, though, and Claiborne has a good season. And the pass rush is, like, average, above average, and the defense is actually, like, top 15 because of it. Like, because I don't think they need some, like, superhuman pass rush for this defense to be good. Like, they have the secondary pieces and the linebackers for this defense to be fine with, like, an average to above average pass rush. They just need to get there, and I think they'll be okay. But say, like, Vic flames out, I think next year that you will see a big investment in edge. If
why wait that long?
I'm not saying that they should have taken Brian Burns this year. Like, I think we both agree on that, but they're going, like, that's the next opportunity to really add an impact guy unless you're spending big bucks in free agency, and they're not going to be doing that in 2020. I tell you that right now.
Right, and I feel like, again, the aggressive approach that they took this offseason on the offensive line, I get it, I admire it, I love it, because you saw a deficiency last year. And remember, you and I said it repeatedly, this has to be their most aggressive offseason to date. And it sort of was, to an extent. They saw their quarterback just get manhandled. But for years, going on the fifth year now, we've really seen a pass rush that's been average at best. So you kind of sort of want to see that aggressive approach at that position as well. Like, I feel like it's more – I feel like they've been just banking too much on potential, and we're going to get these guys right and saying, you know what, we can't rush the passer. We're going to bring in every damn edge rusher we can until somebody gets after the damn quarterback. I just want to see that type of aggression when it comes to you know, their strategic approach with it. I just don't see it. I see it them really saying, hey, we got our guys here. We're going to bank on them. Okay, whatever. You say so. Yeah,
I mean, I don't necessarily agree with it, but I that's what they're going with, and they're staking their jobs on it, so they're serious. They're not just half-assing this. So, I mean, we'll see. Obviously, we hope that it works out, and we'll get to know here relatively soon. But yeah, I mean, any other comments on the injury, or I mean, who do you think gets the most playing time benefit? Assuming they don't add anybody else, like, who do you think is going to be the one that steps up and means absence?
Kaminsky. Yeah. I think some felt this was going to be somewhat of a redshirt year for him. I didn't feel that way based on the fact that, to me, he's only been playing football he's only been playing defensive line for like a handful of years. And from what I saw on tape, for a guy that was a dual threat quarterback to now, like, he made major strides in 2 or 3 years to this point to be a raw player that he is right now. So basically what I'm trying to say is, while he's raw, he can really, with the right coaching staff, with the right attention, like, he can really make some strides. Now, I'm not saying I don't expect him to do 6, 7, 8 sacks or you know, get starter playing time, but I highly doubt this team was going to look at him and say, hey, we're just going to let him sit for a year and develop. No, this guy's going to play. He's going to have to play now.
Yeah.
I think he's going to be fine, to be quite honest with you. Just give him a year or two. I think you may see a guy that can honestly, you know, I love the Jared Allen comparison with him, and I think that's a really good ceiling for him. I think it's reasonable for him to reach it.
Yeah, no, I mean, I like Kaminsky's potential. I mean, maybe even he's exactly the type of guy that Dan Quinn loves, like, great work ethic, tremendous athlete, just raw potential. He's exactly what Devondre Campbell was as a rookie. And Quinn got a good rookie season out of Devondre Campbell. Now, it wasn't like an amazing season, but it was a solid one. So I wouldn't be shocked if Quinn manages to get Kaminsky like just comfortable enough to where he can just kind of use his gifts to just wreak havoc out there and be a quality rotational guy early. I don't think that's out of the question.
He was my favorite pick. I know fans fell in love with the offensive line or even the speed of Kendall Sheffield, but Kaminsky was my favorite pick because the raw potential is there, man. You throw on the tape, throw on his combine workouts. This guy can move.
It's absurd.
You see the dual threat quarterback in him. You see why. Yeah. There's a reason why he was a dual threat quarterback, and you can see the athleticism in him. Yeah. And he's 285 rock solid, man. Like there's no bad 285 weight.
No.
Yeah.
I think he can go up to that 300, 290, 300 range and be okay.
To be quite honest with you, though, I don't want that.
I would rather him stay on the edge, but it seems like Quinn wants to make him an interior guy. So.
I'd rather him stay on the edge. I'd rather him stay at that 280 range and just let him be a strong side defensive end and play on the edge than slide him inside. That's just me. But
yeah,
we see the type of plan they have for him. But to answer your question, yes, Kaminsky is the one that's probably going to benefit the most.
Yeah, yeah, and you guys have all heard us talk about this, but if you handpicked like the three most important non-defensive line players on the Falcons defense that kind of make the whole thing work, it would be Deion Jones number 1, Keanu Neal number 2, Ricardo Allen number 3. And they lost all three of those guys in like the first 2 weeks of the season. So we never really got to see this defense like ever throughout the whole season, basically. Except for the opening game, which they looked pretty good in.
Yeah.
So
Devondre brought up a good point, man. A lot of people forget how good this defense can be when they're fully healthy.
And the preseason, like, they were just lighting people up, man. Like, KZ was just somehow KZ was the most impressive player at that point. He was just kind of the guy that was free to do whatever, just like flying around making tackles and stuff. So if that defense shows up, plus this offense with this revamped offensive line, we hope these rookies get going pretty soon, but they can't be worse than what they had last year, let's be honest. This team's legit, and I know that NFL Network, I think in particular, was really high on the Falcons early in the offseason. Now, putting us at number 7 in the power rankings. Like, calm down. Let us fly under the radar a little bit here, okay?
I didn't even see the power rankings. Number 7?
Yeah. But it's like, I think you can kind of throw out 2018 because of the injuries. It doesn't really reflect the talent of the team.
Here's the weird thing about it. It took an entire season and into the offseason for people to realize, hey, the Falcons were pretty injured last year. No, duh. That's what we were saying all year. I don't know if you realize that.
Oh, yeah. They were incredibly injured, yeah. Honestly, it was not necessarily the volume of injuries. It was who was injured. Like, it was like, I think they were about league average in injuries, which is, it's a fair amount of injuries, obviously. But it was like the most important players on defense.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's just, and again, like I said, it took like analysts and columnists, they finally realized like well into the offseason, like, hey man, you know what? The reason why the Falcons may have taken a step back was probably because they were injured. Like we were saying that all year long. Like you take away that team, you take away the injuries, the guys that got injured. Like that's, like you said, that's the heart of the defense, especially with Deion.
Yeah, Deion's the one guy they can't afford to not play.
But you saw how better the defense looked once he came back. Was it a juggernaut? No,
but it was good enough.
It was good enough.
Yeah,
and he wasn't even 100% while he was out there. So we'll see, man. I think they can. I think with this defense, we're not looking for a Seattle-esque type defense. If we can get a defense that's top 12, top 15, and this offense can light it up, again, they can play with anybody.
Yeah. No, that's basically what they need because the offense is the strength. They just need them to get more turnover luck. Because 2017, they had just the worst turnover luck I've ever seen in my life. Like, that was absurd.
They couldn't buy it.
Yeah, that was absurd. But that's why turnovers are the most volatile stat in football. Like, there is a very real percentage of turnovers that are just completely random. So
you can hide so much about a defensive unit if your defense can get turnovers. You can hide the fact that they can't stop the run. You can hide the fact that they can't rush the passer. You can hide the fact that they can't tackle. But if they get turnovers and get more possessions, you won't care.
Yeah.
You won't notice.
Yeah, and I think with KZ at nickel, he's going to be a guy that produces some turnovers ideally. Trufant's never really been a turnover maker, but you're willing to put up with that if he can get back to his strong play. I mean, with the pass rush as bad as it was last year, I don't necessarily blame any of the DBs for looking bad. But, Alford was always a quality number 2 corner, but he had limitations. Like, you had to know what he couldn't do. He can't play against big guys, I'm
not blaming the pass rush on that. Alford was atrocious.
Okay, yeah, he was bad last year, but
he was terrible.
Trufant was not as bad as people make it out to be, though.
Trufant improved, and he's not getting enough credit for how much he improved over the course of the season.
Yeah. Well, everyone just likes to dunk on Trufant because he's making money. Let the man make his bread, okay? Come on, people. You shouldn't just criticize the guy because he's getting paid. But I think a lot of people don't realize that. Like, Trufant with a good pass rush in front of him plays really well because he can be more aggressive and get in guys' faces and not have to just chase guys around all the time. And I think in 2016 we saw that. Like, he looked really good before he went down. So I think Isaiah Oliver is going to be really good too. Mm-hmm. I know just people freaking getting mad at Isaiah Oliver. Did you see that? I think it was the OTA video of like Sanu catching that over the shoulder throw or something.
It's one.
he quote unquote beat Oliver, and like Oliver was standing right next to him, but they can't there's no contact, so he can't grab him. And people were like, "Oh, just watching our DBs get beat again." And then the comments, what the hell's wrong with you people?
It's one play.
Just get off the internet. Like, if you're that upset about somebody getting beat in practice, like.
It's one play.
You can really tell who has never been to a football practice because people get beat every single play in football practice. Whether it's the receiver getting beat by the that's why you practice. Like, you need to do these things. Like, so let's hold off on dunking on people for practice footage, okay, folks?
Like, it's one play.
Yeah. That's hilarious.
All right, whatever, man.
Yeah, it's just funny, but
they'll put that play. A practice play in t-shirt and shorts. They'll put that play above the interception he had against Carolina and how he went. He pretty much played the ball like he was the receiver. Like, that play is more valuable than what he did in live action. What the hell ever.
Yeah.
I don't care, man.
No, I think Oliver's going to be really good. So I'm excited to see what he can bring to this unit. And then we'll see how KZ plays in at nickel corner. Because he played really well at safety, and I think he is destined to play safety again. But
I just like his ball skills out there.
Yeah.
I mean, even if it's at free safety or a slot corner, honestly, I really don't care. I think he's the better free safety.
Yeah.
But again, with his nose for the ball and his short area quickness, I think he's going to be fine at slot corner. I just want him on the field. I think he's a play waiting to happen, and we saw that last year.
Yeah, I think I think with KZ breaking out, it's kind of put a time limit on Ricardo Allen as the starting free safety just because of how good he looked. Now, obviously, if KZ falls off this year, then that's gonna be totally different. But the Falcons could save a lot of money by cutting Allen next year, unfortunately for him. So what's that?
Which I think is the plan.
I think that is the plan.
Moving from Allen, sliding KZ back to free safety, and making Sheffield their starting slot corner.
Yeah, because I think Sheffield's raw, but he's not necessarily going to be relied upon this year. And I think a lot of people need to keep that in mind. Like, this coaching staff has proven they can develop defensive backs. Like, I'm not concerned at all about any defensive back they draft not looking like at least competent. Like, they made Jalen Collins look good in 2016. Like, that man was completely raw and had nothing but physical traits. So what is Kendall Sheffield? Like, he might be a little bit more polished than Collins was. Collins was not polished at all. But Sheffield doesn't have the size, but he's got that elite speed. He's that ideal guy to match up with those like the really fast slot receivers that teams like to roll out.
I like him in the slot than outside. I think on the outside he has issues tracking the ball in the air. And again, I'd rather play him closer to the line of scrimmage than have him 15, 20, 30 yards down the field and he can't find the ball in the air. I'd rather have him. He's a better slot prospect. Give him time. I think this year he's probably going to be their dime corner at best.
Yeah.
But give him time. Let him work on his footwork. The speed is there. The athleticism is there. If he can improve on the footwork and the ball skills, he's going to be a damn good slot corner.
Yeah. His click and close with the ball in front of him,
yes,
I think is something that he's actually pretty good at. But if he has to turn his back to the quarterback, if he has to turn his back to the ball, he just looks totally lost. So I think that's why I think slot would be good for him. If he can keep the routes in front of him, handle the crossers, like close on stuff really quickly, play up and run support, that sort of stuff, I think that's where he's going to have a lot of success early. And then hopefully they can teach the finer points because he's got enough athleticism to be a little bit slow with the technique, and he can make up some cushion, but he needs to get better than what he is right now with this technique because it's pretty bad downfield. But yeah, I mean, people were asking about Jordan Miller, and I do like Jordan Miller. I think he basically flew under the radar because of his injury, but I think he's a solid corner. So I think if that's a guy you can have as like your fourth corner, I think you'd be pretty happy. I think to me he's like a Bleedy Ray Wilson with better measurables. Like I think he's a solid option.
Go ahead.
No, I just think he's a solid guy. He does have the measurables that you like as an outside guy, so I think he's going to be one of the primary outside backups. But I like his potential, and the price wasn't very high either. So
yeah, I looked at him as a poor man's Jalen Collins. He can play on the outside. He has really good ball skills, and I'm not talking in terms of interceptions. Fans need to understand that when we talk ball skills, we talk interceptions, we talk pass deflections, we talk even forced fumble. Like all that goes into correlation when it comes to ball skills. So he has that. What he needs to improve right now is play strength. 6 reps at 225 at the combine, that's terrible. I can do more than that right now. I can give a good 10 reps on a 225.
He does have absurdly long arms for how small he is.
He does.
That's part of it, I'm sure. But yeah, it's still low. It's still low.
But he needs to improve on the play strength because I think the play strength has a very it has a real effect on his tackling ability, which is not where you want it to be right now. So once he improves on that, I think he'll be pretty good, like you said, in that Bleedy Ray role. I think he's pretty much a special teams guy this year, to be quite honest.
Oh yeah, for sure. I think if he's playing meaningful snaps, we've had a major problem. He's going to be like the last cornerback on the roster, but I like his long-term potential. I think he can be a solid rotational guy on the outside, and maybe more than that. We'll see. But they've got Bleedy, who I think they can trust as like a guy they can sub in and out if they need to. And they've got, I think, Sheffield, who they'll probably try to get some snaps in dime packages, like you said, as an interior matchup guy. So I think, honestly, their secondary is really in pretty good shape. We were supposed to talk about minicamp and OTAs, and this has just kind of become a whole roster breakdown. But as you can tell, there's really nothing to talk about with minicamp and OTAs, so we're just going to keep talking about this if you guys are cool with that. Maybe we'll squeeze some UDFA talk in there.
The Means injury was probably the biggest takeaway from OTAs.
Yeah, like they didn't even write like a recap of the practices, guys. So it is what it is. But so looking at the secondary, I think the cornerback group is in a good place. I know people don't like Desmond Trufant for some silly reason, but they should just get over that because it's stupid. Right. The safeties, if the safeties are healthy, that starting duo is really good. It's really good. So. I really like to look at that secondary. I think linebacker with Deion Jones and Devondre Campbell is solid at worst. I think Campbell's a good player, and then if Oluokun can continue playing well, then that's really good news for the Falcons.
They're expecting from him here. They expect him to kind of take that weak side role and run away with it. I'm at this point, I figured that they would possibly go linebacker late in the draft, but they didn't. So I think that's an indicator that they want Oluokun to win it. I'm hoping he wins it because, God forbid, if Duke Riley.
Oh, no. The Duke Riley days are over. Like I think Duke Riley's going to get cut this offseason.
Please. please.
Yeah, I think it's going to happen because I think Jermaine Grace is better than him. And I think Jermaine Grace is taking his spot, for being totally honest. So, like, we know Bruce Carter's better because he played over him. I think we know Jermaine Grace is better. The only thing that Duke Riley has over any of these players is draft resource investment. But what is it? Year 3, year 4, and he hasn't been good. Like, you can cut bait at this point. He was only a 3rd round pick, so
it's bad. It's really bad.
Yeah.
I have to turn away from the TV when I watch him play at times.
Yeah. He just could not develop his instincts like at all. Like he just couldn't do it. Poor guy.
I keep forgetting. Well, not forgetting, but I keep thinking of the play he had. It was a preseason game, but against the Jets, where I think it was. I can't remember what happened. Was it Was it Crowell?
I can't remember. It was that or that other running back they had. I can't remember his name.
Yeah, that came out of the backfield, ran across or right underneath Duke Riley. Didn't even react. Didn't even communicate with the zone next to him. Nothing. And next thing you know, Crowell catches a little dump off, and he goes untouched for a touchdown.
Yeah, I remember that play because he was like frozen, and then he sees the pass coming in the air, and he's like, "Oh my god!" And you see him like turn right as that happens. But that was the first time he even noticed. Yeah.
You see the running back coming out of the backfield. He's crossing your zone, so you at least, as a linebacker, you pick him up, you travel with him, and then when he's outside your zone, you pass him off to the guy next to you. That's how it works. He basically just stood there. And I'm like, oh my god, he caught a pass. Let me go chase him.
He got totally. I don't know what he was looking at, but he totally froze. Like he just froze.
Bridgewater's not going to take off. Chill.
Yeah, that man just had his knee like replaced. So like he's not going anywhere on the ground.
Yeah, that was just terrible play, dude.
Yeah, but that's basically what we're working at with him. And I don't expect much from that. I know there have been a couple of like undrafted linebackers that have made some noise, like Trey Crawford. I do think you should keep an eye on Crawford because Campbell may or may not be back next year, and if Crawford can play that strong side role that Campbell plays and play it pretty well, I think that they will definitely go after Crawford as a long-term option to replace Campbell so they can save some money there. Because it's going to be tight next year financially, so they're going to be giving Dion a big deal, I'm sure, and Hooper and all these guys. So
yeah, it's I think it's worth for us to point out that both first round picks this year, Lindstrom and McGarry, they look pretty solid in rookie minicamp. They both line up on the right side. So I think that now, granted, they were not playing with veterans, so we don't know what type of combination they're going to go with on that offensive line. But we all pretty much speculate it's pretty much going to be right guard, right tackle for the two of them. But they look fairly solid. They're both are physical. They're both, to me, are huge boosts in the run game more than pass protection at the moment. But like I said, they look pretty solid, man, and I can't wait to see how they look. When training camp gets here, if Grady Jarrett's in training camp, man, am I going to love seeing him go up against Lindstrom. That's going to be fun.
Yeah, I'm not worried about Lindstrom at all. I think we were having some discussions about where he was going to play and what his best future fit was, and I think we both thought that maybe left guard would be his best future fit, but it looks like they're so far. I mean, we haven't really gotten a ton of reports, but I think as far as we know, they're basically those two are playing on the right side. I get it from some angles, but I also think putting two rookies next to each other, it's kind of like you're saying, okay, we know they're probably going to struggle early, but the hope is that these two can like develop together and build a really strong relationship and become like a very rock solid side of the line.
I don't think it's going to be an issue. They're so close as friends now. I don't think.
I guess more like the on-field relationship, like the reps together and all that, and then they could be the right side of the line, and basically until Matt Ryan retires. So, I think it might have been smarter to kind of put veterans between them so that they have experienced guys around them. But it's not like either one of these guys is inexperienced, quote unquote. They just haven't played in the NFL. Like they both played at their respective positions. I mean, many, many years of college football. So it's not that they don't have any experience at all. But it does raise the question about like why did they give Jamon Brown this huge deal? He hasn't played left guard.
Right.
And they can't move on from him until 2021, but they can move on from Carpenter next year. So if they don't move Brown to left guard, I don't. It really seems like they kind of panicked and signed two guys when they shouldn't have.
I'm not too sure they're going to do anyway because he's never played left guard, like you said.
He did play left tackle a lot in college, so he has arguably played more on the left side than he has the right side in his career. But
he only have like 1 year of offensive line play because he came to the University of Louisville as a defensive tackle. He started off as a defensive tackle. He only had maybe one.
I think he was only the starter for 1 year.
Maybe 2 years under his belt as far as playing a position on the offensive line.
I'm gonna look it up just because. But.
I know from the majority are saying that it's probably going to be Carpenter that's going to win that left guard spot with Lindstrom at right guard. But, of course, we circle back around to the money that Jamon Brown is getting, and he's getting starters money. And it's harder to move on from his contract than it is with Carpenter. Carpenter is getting starters money also, but he can be cut after 1 year. Plus, he's played left guard. Brown hasn't. So, I mean, I don't know. I still think there's going to be a situation where they don't know for sure exactly what the configuration is for offensive line right now. They just know they got a left tackle, they got a center, and more than likely they got a right tackle, Gary. As far as the thing goes, who knows?
Yeah.
If I were a betting man and week 1 is tomorrow, I would say Carpenter wins the left guard spot. And, well,
Carpenter's a much better pass protector. Like, Carpenter's actually a pretty good pass protector. He's just not a particularly inspiring run blocker.
You know, I put it to you this way. I know they probably want Lindstrom and McGarry to play alongside each other. But if week 1 were tomorrow and I would have put my money down on something, I would say Lindstrom would win left guard and Brown would win right guard. That's just, even though Lindstrom has played more recently at right guard, he's played both spots. I think he's a really nice fit at left guard. I will put him there just based on having him playing in between Matthews and Mack. I think that would benefit him a lot.
Yeah, I agree. And that's what I would do, but we'll see. I mean, they could very well try it out in training camp and move to that. But, yeah, I just don't know. We'll see.
I don't feel comfortable having Brown as a reserve because that's a lot of money tied into him for a guy that could be holding his helmet for game.
And like I'm fine with like one of them being the backup, but like one of them's getting cut next year, so the only one it can be is Carpenter. So they need to try to get Jamon Brown on the field if possible. You know, so we'll see. It's still early. And, like, Carpenter is a lot more experienced. He's also a lot older, and he's a better pass protector. So I could see the team starting Carpenter at the left side and then taking this season to kind of transition Brown to the left side and then letting Brown play left guard next year. But it's it's like a gamble to go out and spend this much money on a free agent if you're going to make him change positions. Like,
and they spend a lot of money. They spend a considerable amount of money on Brown with only a sample size of what he gave last year with the Giants. He wasn't with the Giants for the entire season. He came on in the second half of the year. He improved their run game, but like I said, they gave him that much money based on 5 or 6 games of production for him. So it is a gamble. Yeah,
it's a gamble. He's definitely super athletic and huge.
Very much
so.
Very
you know, that aspect is interesting, of course. But
30, he's in the 30s, right? 330s.
But yeah, I think he's like 330, and he ran almost a 5 flat 40 and some other stuff like that. So he was very impressive athletically. Carpenter, honestly, a pretty good athlete too. So it wouldn't shock me if Carpenter starts because he's a better pass protector, but I think the long-term solution has to be Brown, or else they messed up with their contract. So, but Brown's really young too. Like, I think Brown's only like 26,
25 or something like that.
So Brown could definitely develop, like, learn left guard this year and be the primary backup, and then take over at the left guard spot next year with like a year of kind of training under his belt. he has played on the left side before, so it's not like it's going to be completely alien to him.
Is that with the Rams?
He played left tackle in college.
Well, did he play any left guard with the Rams?
I don't think so. He might have taken snaps at left guard, a few snaps, but I don't think he played there for more than like a replacement game or two. But yeah, he has played on the left side. Like it's not like he's never ever taken snaps on the left. He got drafted based on his left tackle season. So, it's very possible that he could be the one making the change, and they just want to let Lindstrom play his comfortable position at right guard since he's a rookie. And I think that could make sense. But if Brown's not at least getting a heavy shot to start, then they made a mistake with that contract. So,
yeah.
And like if James Carpenter has like some really great camp and he looks awesome, then yeah, of course you play Carpenter at left guard. But make sure you give Brown a shot is all I'm asking. I know Ignacio Reyes asking, some people are comparing Lindstrom to Zach Martin. Some people are comparing Lindstrom to Quentin Nelson. I don't think Chris Lindstrom is as good as either of those two players, but I think he's pretty good. Saying that, if he's as good as Zach Martin or Quentin Nelson, then that means he's like a top 5 guard in the NFL. So I think maybe he could be a top 10 guard. Maybe he could be a top 5 guard eventually. I wouldn't expect that this year.
Both of those guys were the best guard prospects we've seen enter the NFL in the last 15, 20 years maybe. Quentin Nelson is really, that's the cream of the crop.
Absurdly good.
I understand why he went top 10 last year. I get it. I totally get it. Like he's that elite.
Yeah. Lindstrom is not him. Yeah.
Lindstrom is not elite as far as from an athletic
standpoint. He is elite athletically. I don't think he's anywhere near as strong.
I don't think he's Quentin Nelson athletic.
He actually is more athletic than Nelson. But go ahead.
I think he's like right there. I mean, he's not far off.
Not meaningfully different. Yeah.
He's not far off. I mean, I've said it. It's quite possible Lindstrom can go to a Pro Bowl year 2. Like he can be that good. Was it a reach at 14? Probably so. Yeah, a slight reach. But I think he probably was going to be a top 20 pick.
Yeah.
I think the Vikings were looking at him.
Oh yeah, yeah.
They took Bradbury. I think the Vikings were looking at him.
Yeah, I agree. I think several teams may have been. So don't go expecting Lindstrom to be Quentin Nelson or Zach Martin or anything like that. Don't do that. Like Nelson was such a special player because he was a great athlete and he was just freakishly strong.
Right.
Those players don't come around very often. So Lindstrom is more athletic than Nelson, but he's not as physically imposing. So yeah, and Nelson was just like basically a finished product completely. And I think Lindstrom's pretty much a finished product, but he's not 100% there. Like he's pretty far along for a rookie, I would say, but he's not like a raw player by any means. But he's gonna have some work to do to get acclimated. The bigger question mark is McGarry, because I think McGarry could have a really good rookie season because of his unconventional play style. Like I think the fact that it's so different could catch a lot of players off guard, and that it worked for him in college. We'll just have to see if it works or not. If his style works, I think he could have a pretty good rookie season. If it doesn't, he's going to struggle because he struggles with speed rushers and he needs to clean up some stuff. And he's got short arms. So he's got some things he's going to have to overcome. But he's super strong. You basically have to love everything about him attitude-wise. And, I like the guy a lot. He has that height, which kind of mitigates the arm length a little bit because guys have to reach up to get to you, to get to your chest. So, it helps somewhat. So it doesn't make the arm thing as crazy as it could be. But
the lack of arm length is going to make the footwork aspect that much more important. If he can improve on his footwork and if he's able to get out of his burst because of that footwork, you won't even notice that he has short arms because he's able to put himself in position where those freakish athletic speed rushers are able to get around him so easy because he can't reach out to him. So that's where the footwork is going to come into play. Don't be surprised if you see him see a lot of time in training camp working a ladder, doing footwork drills.
Yeah,
that's how you can compensate that.
Yeah, And I think he'll be fine this year, but I would have really liked to get Jawan Taylor, who I viewed as basically a finished product. Or Cody Ford would have been fine too, But, we can't have nice things here.
Should just revive.
Yep. But as far as the rest of the offense is looking, I mean, I'm intrigued by Marcus Green, who is officially a wide receiver now, I guess. I don't know what the hell that whole thing was about them announcing him as a running back and then calling him a wide receiver later. He's played mostly at wide receiver, so it does make sense to me. But he's going to be a guy that can play a little of both wide receiver, running back, just be a kind of gadget player. Probably the favorite to be the return guy. So I like what he brings, but the receiving core as a whole is just really strong to begin with. So they didn't necessarily. I mean, it would have been nice to add like a developmental guy in there.
Yeah.
Like if I would have liked them to get Hakeem Butler if they could have. Emmanuel Hall they could have picked up at any point and they didn't.
Oh man, lovely this offense.
Yeah. So it's whatever, but I do like Marcus Green. I think he's interesting. I guess the one question to me is like Quadri Olison. Like, what do you? I think was he basically your most questionable pick too, or was it McGarry? I think you don't like McGarry.
Yeah, no, Olson was probably the most questionable pick because it's not the position. I was expecting we both were.
Yeah.
Running back in the mid rounds. It was just who was still remaining on the board when they took Olson.
Yeah.
And if they wanted a power back, I get it. I understand. But to me, there were better power backs on the board.
Yeah. I think they must have just loved his attitude. That's the only thing I could think of.
They must have. I mean, because he doesn't, as far as skill set goes, there's really nothing that pops off that says, oh, okay, now I see why he was taking over other players. He's a decent power back. I don't expect a ton from him. I think his biggest role on the team would be, that bruiser that comes in late in games to kind of offset Devontae and Ito. He's probably going to get 12, 15 carries a game at most. But he's going to be that guy that comes in the fourth quarter when defenses are tired of chasing around Devontae and Ito. Now they got to deal with a 230-pound bat that's going to run into their chest, which is, trust me, it's not fun. I've been in that situation before.
Yeah,
I hate
it's not
it. It's not fun at all.
Not fun.
But, yeah, it's just – they were, like I said, they were better power backs on the board. They wanted a guy that can come in and tote the rock and win some 3rd-and-1s and 4th-and-1s. I mean, I would have taken a shot at a guy like Rodney Anderson out of Oklahoma.
Yeah.
I know he's had knee injuries, but they're set at 1 and 2 at running back right now. So you're not going to ask much from him.
Right. I think it's kind of a weird thing. I think Olson is like a guy. I think they wanted a player that they can put in to, like you said, bruise up teams, demoralize them, take a lot of carries at the end of games. Like, I think they wanted Olson to be the guy that they kind of bring in for short yardage, maybe for that type of stuff, but also like as the closer, because there were a lot of games in 2016, for example, where like they were just giving carries to Devontae, and because he's really good, and of course he was gashing teams, but it's like at the end of games when you're up by a lot, you don't necessarily want Devontae out there like risking injury, and he's getting older. So I think Olison's a guy that you put out there instead. You let Smith and you let Freeman rest, and you kind of let Olson go out there and take those final 10 carries or something like that.
Use a guy like Olson in the Super Bowl, all right?
Trigger.
Prime example.
So triggered. Yeah.
Use the closer right then and there.
Yep.
I mean, like I said, we'll see, but I think that's probably his role. Again, I would have taken a guy like Anderson. I also would have liked a guy like Jordan Scarlett out of Florida. Not the 230-pound range, but he's not really known for his speed. He's a heavy runner. Runs a little bit bigger. I think he's probably listed at like 218, 220 or so. But he runs much heavier than that. Runs behind his pads. Very much better in between the tackles than outside on the edge. I mean, that's just me, but
yeah,
we'll see.
Yeah, I think they do like Olson as like a low-key speedy guy. Like I think he ran in the 4.5s at his higher weight. So that's pretty good for that size.
He has four touchdowns over his career of 60 or more yards, including two of them, I believe. One was 99, one was 97, and I think another one was like 76, 77, something like that. So I guess he has 4 touchdowns of 60 yards or more.
Yeah, because he gets going and he just gets really hard to tackle.
It just takes him to get to that third level in order for him to really get going when it comes to speed.
Yeah, he's not bursty. He's more long. He does have some long speed, which is nice because if he can get to that second, third level, then he can definitely rip off a bigger run, which is unusual for a power back. So
he's tall at 6'1" for a running back. He's tall.
Yeah,
but he has some long strides for a guy that big, 6'1", 230. You expect a guy like him to have kind of like short, choppy steps or kind of plodding type running style. But when he gets in that open field, it's not blazing fast. But man, he covers 2 or 3 yards with each step. Man, he eats it up that way. But he's an runner. Bro.
He is. So I mean, I think you can tell we're both feeling pretty decently about the state of both sides of the ball. If people can stay healthy, but pass rush is the biggest concern. I don't have too much else to say at this point.
Go with that, and look like we're about to end it with that as well.
Yep, that's your takeaway from tonight. Like Steven Means is gone, the pass rush is still in a state of concern. So, anything else you want to drop tonight before we head out, Eric?
No. Well, I just had an article come out today with that provides the biggest strength and weakness for each of the draft prospects. So give that a look.
Definitely. And you guys know this is the slow period, but definitely give Eric's stuff a look. Check out thefalcoholic.com. We have some quality content as usual. Hopefully we'll get some more interesting news over the next few weeks. Hopefully the news won't be injury related. That's what we're hoping for.
Oh, one more thing before we leave. Don't panic about Julio not making OTAs and stuff.
Don't worry about anybody not making OTAs. It's voluntary. Like,
who cares?
If you're not like an undrafted guy trying to make a good impression, you don't need to go to OTAs. Like, you don't have to. Like,
Julio's missed training camp for all I care. As long as he's there week 1, I don't care.
Yeah. Julio, like, it's not like a thing. Like, Julio hasn't come to OTAs in like the past 3 years or something. Like,
he led the league in receiving yards last year, and he missed all of OTAs. He missed all of minicamp.
Yeah.
And he missed the beginning of training camp.
Yeah, he's one of those players that you trust to do their own training, and you don't have to worry about it. So.
Bingo.
Yep. It's just how it is. All right. Well, guys, before we get out of here, I do want to thank my co-host, Mr. Eric Robinson. He is on Twitter at @Eric_Robinson. Make sure you check out his article, like he said. I'm, of course, Kevin Knight on Twitter at Falcoholic Kevin. I guess I don't have any articles out right now, but they'll be there. They'll be there when I think of something interesting to write about.
Just check out the Falcoholic side as a whole, man.
Yeah, that's good stuff. Yep. Good stuff. We do appreciate you guys tuning in during the off season. We will be back again in 2 weeks with another show for you, and we will just bring up anything that happens there. I think by then we'll know if McCoy has signed anywhere, and maybe some of the answers to the questions we posed tonight about are they going to sign another defensive end? Are they going to do anything like that? And we'll hopefully have an injury-free period. That's what we're hoping for. So. Otherwise, guys, we do appreciate you. Like I said, thank you for tuning in. We'll be back in 2 weeks. Until then, I'm Kevin. He's Eric. We will see you next time. Thanks, guys.